All right. We are live once again. Uh, again, here on our new Best Ball channel. Welcome. I am Chris. This is Chuck. We are from Occupy Fantasy. You might be familiar with us from our DFS channel that we have done some streams on in the past. We've recently decided to have a split off Best Ball channel. Seems to be doing a little bit better for our metrics for the DFS channel. So that's kind of why we segmented it out that way. For our longtime viewers, we appreciate you being over here. We're still doing a giveaway once we hit our first 500 subscribers to this channel. So if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please click that subscribe button, like the video, ring that notification bell, all that fun stuff everybody on YouTube tells you to do. We appreciate you being here for another show. We're going to stream a Best Ball Mania 5 draft this evening. Chuck, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. We're in August. We have 30 days, 31 days until NFL season starts. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to mention the overlay on Underdog. The marathon and the sprint are overlaying very hard. And the sprint's a $50 price point, so I understand that. But the marathon, $15 entry, and it's definitely going to overlay. I'm thinking about, like, say BBM overlaid, there's going to have wild cards. And so the final field is still going to be the same. So you have no advantage in the finals. You just get an advantage on advance rate. But with the marathon, if it overlays by 10%, you're competing against 10% less lineups and the same prize pool. And it's effectively rake free. So I think I'm going to throw some entries in the marathon where I wasn't going to before. I just wanted to mention that.
I think you just sold me. You just pitched it to me right here live on the show. And I think, I'm certainly going to be throwing most of what I have at Best Ball Mania 5, but honestly, Chuck, this is going to be the higher floor outcome, I would think, right? Yes. Playing the marathon and just maybe if you're looking to, I guess, flatten out your return this season, have a chance to not just completely bust if you don't advance a couple teams to like round 3 in one of these other 150 max playoff week tournaments. The marathon is looking pretty good. And a nice $300,000 to first place if you're able to take down the 17-week tournament here. So maybe we'll get into some marathon streams at the end of the month here. For now, though, I would like even this playoff sprint, which I guess to define it, that's the final 3 weeks of the season is all one round. It's first round, same as Best Ball Mania, the other tournaments, weeks 1 through 14, but the sprint is a 3-week combined playoff, which is kind of an interesting concept. We're going to do a Best Ball Mania 5, though, so that's what I'm going to jump into here. Before I do that, I did want to look at the way ADP has changed over the last week, and that's what I believe I have up on the screen right now. Our biggest riser, a couple of players I know you can't wait to talk about, Chase Brown with the Cincinnati Bengals at running back and Justin Fields with the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback. What do you think about this?
I'm still drafting one of those guys. With Chase Brown, the thing is, so he's up 13 spots in ADP. Zach Moss is down, like 4 spots? Not even. So that seems a little... I was excited to start scooping Zach Moss after ADP. He's only down... Okay, he's down 4.5 spots, but it just doesn't seem correct. And then Bengals came out with something today. They had both of them listed. Zach Moss was listed as the RB1 on the depth chart. It's tough to know what to read into. I still prefer Zach Moss for the reasons I've been talking about on the show. I have added some Chase Brown just in case he keeps rising. I want to have some in my portfolio, and I wasn't drafting him before. But I'm still going to mostly target Zach Moss and just hope he falls more.
On the other side of the ADP movers here, the guys whose ADPs are falling like rocks, ignore the first 3 guys here because they have just gone from having no ADP to hitting the board. So we have the biggest faller, Kendre Miller, with the Saints. He's down a couple of rounds. DeAndre Hopkins is down almost a full round. I think you and I talked about that on our last show together. The Chargers are dropping. No surprise. I think everybody, for lack of better terminology here, thinks they're going to suck this year. And then the Bengals, we've got Jermaine Burton at wide receiver, who's also kind of on this list. So an interesting little group for sure there. Any thoughts on these players, Chuck?
Just a lot of rookies that maybe we were overvaluing before. What I will say with maybe not Kendre Miller specifically, because we pretty much know his coach hates him, but I think this is incorrect for most situations like this. He's going undrafted in some drafts I'm doing. I think he should still be getting drafted. He was too expensive before, but I still think he's fine to add in the last round. Like, we had a situation like this with Rashad Penny a few years ago, and he was, the RB1 in week 17. He was on Liam's Best Ball Mania winning team. So Just a thought.
It did jump into a draft while we were talking through this. I got the 5th overall pick. So that is what we are doing on tonight's show. And I'm interested to see how the next couple of picks go. I need you to talk me into just not slamming all the Amon-Ra St. Brown here, even when Justin Jefferson was available, because that's what I've been doing.
Do you want me to wait until after your pick to I'm way overweight on Jefferson, so I've been taking Amon-Ra at number 4 recently.
I'm way overweight on Amon-Ra, so I am going to go with JJ here, just because I feel like it's a mistake not to at least be in line with the field with him here, and I don't think I am just yet. So right on ADP. Now we're looking for some Green Bay Packers correlation in the championship, Seattle Seahawks in the semis, and the Chicago Bears in Week 15. And I think we talked about this a couple of times on our shows together, or maybe I discussed it with Derek or Brian. I know I've seen some other streamers in the industry talk about this. This is one of I think the cleanest wide receiver playoff week kind of correlations to try to stack throughout the first 4 rounds of the draft, right? ADP really lines up pretty nicely with this group.
Oh yeah, it's not hard to do at all. What I was going to say.
So this comes back to. I apologize for cutting you off. You want to finish that thought first?
No, I was going to say Green Bay with. You took Justin Jefferson. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I went with JJ. We got Green Bay Week 17, Seattle Week 16, Chicago Week 15. Yep. And I think it's pretty easy to pair JJ here with Metcalf, one of DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then really any Packer you want, because none of them have super high ADPs. So I really like getting this start. But what I was going to ask you, since you have been dropping these fantastic nuggets night in and night out when we do our shows on this channel, Chuck, what do the ownership percentages look for those pairings? Because it is so easy, they have to be astronomical is kind of what I'm thinking.
Let's check it out. Because I know first and second round picks that have, I'm thinking Devonta Smith and CeeDee Lamb, those are probably one of the most owned round 1-2 combos, but I'm not sure what it looks like in the future rounds. So let me pull that up. With Green Bay too, have you seen the stuff about the different snap counts and Jaden Reed might not be running 2 wide receiver sets? He did get some snaps. He got more snaps in practice this week than he did all last season playing in the NFL in 2 wide receiver sets. I think Dontavion Wicks might be the odd man out right now. Are you adjusting anything just yet?
So I'm pretty underexposed to Green Bay in general, Chuck, because I just don't, I guess the field, I don't really know what's going to happen. And I think the ADP reflects that. I think naturally fading Reed because of that uncertainty certainly fits. I almost would rather take shots on Wicks. I think I've talked, it's been several weeks. I think I've talked even about Bo Melton towards the end of the draft. I think he's got some possibility, even if he's not going to see an early season role. I think he played well enough late in the season in the playoffs to earn some more looks. So then you have Jacobs, and then this drama with RB2 with Marshawn Lloyd and AJ Dillon. There's just a ton of options here. So what did you learn about correlations with Justin Jefferson? I am on the clock now. I'm curious what you have.
Oh no, it's not loading.
That is distressing. Well,
yeah.
I can tell you a player that I haven't been selecting here that isn't directly correlated with Justin Jefferson that I feel 0% of in my portfolio would be pretty incorrect is Jalen Waddle. I have a ton of Devontae Adams, who's the next best guy on the board here. So I'm going to mix in Waddle here, and he's got some nice teams that are pretty easy to stack with him as well.
Yeah, Waddle's a guy who I want, but he came up in price during that 1 week over the summer, and it's tough to click him. But I do, like you just said, I'm taking Devontae Adams almost every time, but if Waddle's there, I'm pretty happy to click him. Remember how many games he left early because of injury? That hurt his numbers.
How many? The Dolphins had a full regular season and a playoff game last year, right? So he played 18 games. He had the opportunity to play in 18 games. I feel like this is a long, convoluted joke I'm trying to make here. I feel like he left 25 games early in the 18-game schedule they played. That's how often he left games. He left a couple of games multiple times. So you just literally, I wish we could have taken a like a higher stat line on Jalen Waddle to the locker room 1.5 or something like that.
It would have hit. I don't know why this isn't loading. I'm sorry, I can't give you this information. I was curious myself.
They knew you were giving it away. They blocked you. That's what they did.
Right? They didn't like me promoting their product for free on a stream. Let's see if I can pull it up on Firefox.
So I'll give you a 2v2 here of, I'll say DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, or DK Metcalf and Jaden Reed.
I don't have it close, DJ Moore side.
All right, you just made my pick. Cool. So we're going to go with DJ Moore here for some week 15 correlation with Justin Jefferson there. And I can still get Seattle correlation later because JSN, Tyler Lockett, even Kenny Walker, like there's just plenty of outs here.
So I can pull up the correlations just in my BBM drafts, which is only 28 teams rather than all of my like puppies and stuff, which was almost 200. But just looking at this, like Josh Jacobs is on 20% of teams with Justin Jefferson, Christian Watson 8%, Jaden Reed 8%, Aaron Jones 20, Romeo Doubs 8. So it's kind of like the Green Bay receivers seem like they're a little bit spread out. Like Addison's on 28% of Justin Jefferson teams, which is fine for regular season advance rates, but these Green Bay Packers are really spread out. I don't know if there's like an edge more than just draft any of them.
What do you have for what we did in the show tonight? Waddle and DJ Moore.
Waddle is on 8% of Justin Jefferson teams. Okay. DJ Moore is on 20.
Okay, so I figured Moore would be a little more popular, but Waddle's basically average. That's not too bad.
Yeah, and then who was the second player in that 2v2?
Metcalf. He went right after my pick.
And Keenan Allen. Yes. He's 8% owned.
So we flipped coins wrong there. If we were purely looking to maximize uniqueness, but that's fine. I think you're correct. You know, ADP is correct here, more over Keenan. I still think Keenan is a great buy at his price. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I definitely want to have a little bit more. DJ Moore, who got paid. That's definitely true.
Yes, he did.
All right.
If there's anything else interesting, like JJ McCarthy is on 48% of Justin Jefferson teams. That's higher than I would have guessed.
How about Jordan Love?
Jordan Love is on 12.
All right, so that's a little better, but that's your week 17 correlation.
Yeah, and it's like the price is way different, but I mean, I can't imagine not rather having Jordan Love. I mean, it's just tough because he could throw 3 touchdowns to 3 different people.
Well, we'll see how this goes. I almost want, maybe this is like the worst way to think of this. I'm guessing I'm outing myself as someone who blows up other people's plans. It feels too easy to snag these like Mahomes, Kelsey, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews combos here in rounds 4 and 5. So I almost like ruining that for people and just backstacking one of those pieces. How do you feel about that?
I mean, like I said, I'm comfortable taking any of these top 5 quarterbacks except Mahomes naked. And I mean, if they're there at the top ADP, a lot of times someone said something like, who has more upside, Lamar or Terry McLaurin? And it's like, all right, well, I'm probably going to click on Lamar a little more when I'm in that spot now.
All right, 3 receivers. What do I want to do here? I don't think I want. What do you have for Jalen Hurts on JJ teams?
Jalen Hurts is 4%.
Then that's what we're going to do here because we like taking these guys naked, and there are still some opportunities to pair Jalen Hurts with both his correlated opponents and we got Dallas Goedert lingering out there. There's definitely some options, but we don't even have to stack him if we don't want to your point.
Well, I was going to say, this is beautiful because it's like the leverage that Jalen Hurts has on, the 50% of JJ teams, which they're going to have an elite quarterback. J.D. McCarthy's not their QB1. But Dallas Goedert lines up perfectly with Justin Jefferson's ADP, and he's also only on 4% of JJ teams. So it's like this is a pretty good Week 17, like little non-correlated stack, I guess.
And if I want to correlate Hurts, I can still get like a Brandon Cooks, a Jake Ferguson, one of the running backs. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
And those guys are all 4% owned with Justin Jefferson too. So it's like this is already all the leverage I think that you need in a format like B. Like if we get into a marathon draft, I'd love to do a marathon draft with you to get into these combos because I think it's a little bit more interesting with the season-long combos.
I think there's less of an industry focus on that. It's probably correlated with the lack of entries in it. So there's probably a lot of opportunity for us to exploit there. That is definitely let's definitely put that on the agenda for the rest of the summer here. I still think we promised the viewers, I guess, like some written form of a breakdown of like your combo stuff. So we definitely should commit to bringing that to everybody within the next week at some point. So we'll put our heads together, I guess, offline, if you will, back in the Super Cyan secret staff chat and make that happen. Because I really think that yeah, exactly. I really think that information would be good for the people to have.
Holmes went late.
He did. I could double stack Chicago still if I really wanted to, because Keenan is still here. This is a little bit of a reach, but I just like Chris Godwin. He doesn't necessarily have correlation, and I don't feel great about Josh Jacobs. Chuck, how do you feel about Josh Jacobs? How much of him do you have?
I have very little. What's his ADP on Underdog?
Jacobs' ADP is 52.4.
Okay. He's going in the 40s, maybe on both of the other sites. I feel like I'm clicking on Jacobs in the late 50s if I don't need a receiver.
I probably could have stomached him here without having, with the JJ Waddle, DJ Moore group, but I don't know. I'm super into some of the upside cases in the proverbial dead zone here, if you will, for running backs. So that's where my bread is being buttered this season. I had pretty strong results last year. Got pretty good leverage on the field during the regular season anyway. On a player like Raheem Mostert, who did really, really well last year. And I guess sticking with the narrative a little bit on thinking about the full season-long marathon type of contest, there's significantly more opportunity to realize a higher ROI if you hit on that play that was great between like weeks 1 through 14 and weeks 1 through 15 and duds in the playoffs. So if you're the type of player that wants to feel the satisfaction of being rewarded for your efforts in that regard, automatically that's the kind of tournament that's a little bit better, I think, for that, right?
Well, I'm going to be at almost 500 entries into one of the other sites in this format. And so I've been studying it, like I've been putting time in drafting it. And some of these ADPs are wildly different. I know PPR versus half PPR, but it's not that large of a difference that some of these sites, like some people are way overvalued in PPR, some people are undervalued in half PPR, like Kenneth Walker, I think kind of just went off the board recently, comes to mind. But yeah, the median ROI is going to be so much higher than BBM. And like I told Brian last week, I lowered my BBM target to 100, then I lowered it to 60. Now I lowered it to 40 because I kind of think that my money is better spent in the marathon. And we're helping Underdog out because it's going to overlay. BBM is probably not going to.
And everybody wants $1.5 million. No one's going to sneeze at that, but 300,000 will be pretty nice too. So I'm with it.
Like a min cash is 2x the buy-in too, which is kind of rare in these best ball contests nowadays. And like I said, like if you're competing against 20% less of the expected entries, it's just you talk about free money in fantasy. Go deposit on Underdog. Use the code Occupy2. They'll match it up to $250. Now you have $500. That's 33 marathons in a puppy.
Chuck, that's why you make the big bucks here at Occupy. You with a seamless plug for our promo code. Appreciate you doing that, sir. Ed JC43 doing something here I have not built this way. I think early in the season, Brian advocated for being a little more bullish on these early round running backs because of how low they're going in general compared to like previous years' ADPs. How do you feel about a really strong stable of running backs like he has there out of the 10 hole?
I like it more in the marathon format and weekly winners. It's carrying over a little bit into my drafting the regular format. But like I agree with the overall sentiment. Running backs are undervalued, but the problem is if you take the running backs, you're going to be behind a wide receiver, and it's easier to make up the running back value later. Like that dead zone you're talking about, I'm living in the dead zone, man. James Conner is my favorite running back. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous.
I don't think I have Green Bay correlation just yet. And Christian Watson is still sitting here. And so that's where I'm going to go. I feel best about his spike week potential compared to the other guys that are left with Jaden Reed off the board. And really, I think with 4 good receivers on my roster already, that's all I'm concerned about now is who left here has that huge spike week potential. I think that's a Christian Watson. That's other guys like Gabriel Davis, Rashid Shaheed, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel pretty good about what I'm doing here at wide receiver.
Yeah, and so I was really on Reed earlier. He's falling now. I'm still going to take him a little bit when he falls, but I've really been trying to take more Dubes because I was taking Lockett, Shaheed, the running backs around them. I wasn't taking much Dubes, but I'm pretty confident he actually probably runs the most routes for this team this year.
He was their most consistent performer in the postseason, right? So I think that's a pretty sharp opinion for sure. I totally agree with that. Yeah, he's got to have probably the highest floor of the group, both playing time and fantasy points probably.
Kyler went late here, right? I can't see the numbers. It's kind of blurry on my screen. I can just kind of
pick 74. A little early. Well. Yeah, it's about on. Last ADP hard copy I pulled had him at 77th, so it feels like it's about right. Man, interesting to see Hopkins. No, he went. Okay. This is pick 76. I don't care about these running backs, so I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson here at tight end. Because that is my Jalen Hurts correlation right there. So a reverse correlation with the opponent anyway.
Did you just pass up on your boy, the rookie?
I did. Thomas? I really did. I could not pull the trigger on 6 receivers in a row without a tight end or a running back. That felt more wrong than drafting my favorite player. So have to force myself to do the right thing. Yeah.
That's like I don't know how many drafts you're in, but are you like how do your exposures look right now? Are they flatter than expected, and then do you expect them to be flatter than last year? Because mine are way flatter than I expected.
Mine are not as flat as I want them to be. They're at the top end. They're a little bit higher than I expected. I need to go through and find the players that I'm super underweight on and start taking those guys. Because I think what I've done, Chuck, is I've focused on like in the mid rounds here, just like I'm still doing a lot of, I like this value, and I'm just kind of hammering it. And then when we can look at my exposures after the contest here. I have a couple of guys that I have like 35 to 40% of. I'm only in like 30 to 35 underdog contests so far. So that obviously skews it. The sample size is still reasonably small, but still that's just something to be mindful of. When I'm drafting those players from now on, I need to be strategic when I do it and make sure there's like a correlated reason for me to continue to add to my exposure there. Does that make sense?
Yes. I like it. Like one of the reasons why I'm a little bit more flat is because I have like, I try to take it off when it's on stream because it's too distracting, but I have like 15 percentages showing up for each player now, showing me combos with like, how much do I have this receiver with my first receiver, my second receiver, my first round pick, my second round QB1. And so it's just, if I see it's over 20% of a combo with a player, I'm trying to take someone else just to get as many combos as possible. I think it's more relevant in the marathon formats.
Like there are players, I've started taking Jake Ferguson a little bit. I can tell you just eyeballing it. Lad McConkey, I think I auto-picked him in a slow draft on the other site. I think that's the only time I've selected him. I don't believe I have any Jameson Williams looking at who's coming off the board. I have pretty much everybody else in that range. I've taken a little bit of looking at the receivers in round 6, a little bit of Xavier Worthy. I'm very underweight though on Odunze, so I think I got to fix that. Just kind of looking at what's on the board and just stream of consciousness, if you will, look like thinking about my exposures. I know for a fact I'm not clicking on some guys enough here.
Yeah, there's been certain guys I'm trying to hammer right now because I think their ADPs still go up a bunch. Rashee Rice is a big one, Justin Fields, and then a few like late round running backs. But I'm trying to think about any guys in the mid range that I think are going to rise too. Like Rashee Rice is up to 50. He's pretty close to where he's supposed to be if he's not going to be suspended.
He went 59th in this particular contest here, so
That's late. I usually don't see him fall to 60 anymore.
I still don't have a running back, which is exciting for me. Pick 92. And I think I'm going to correct that. And we're going to go with what's going on with Jonathan Brooks. I have seen him I think on the other site they have him listed as out. So I feel like no one's clicking him over there.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen anything that suggests he's not going to be ready to go.
I feel like the recent thing in my head is he's not playing until week 4 or 3.
Okay.
Might be mistaken on that. Like there might still be a possibility of him playing week 1, but I think like my view of it is I'm kind of waiting for him to fall a little bit before I start drafting, and I'm trying to take more Chuba Hubbard later in drafts too.
I opted to go with Brother Raheem here instead anyway for a little bit of. Again, I think there's a lot of spike week potential there with that Miami offense if you get the right running back, and I don't have as many of those guys in general as like a group. I think the one I have the most of is the rookie Jalen Wright, so I think I need a little more Mostert because I think he's still sitting atop the depth chart at this point, and that was a pretty strong role to have in fantasy last year.
Yeah, it was something like this is Raheem's backfield. Might have been the quote from like the OC or something, but I think Raheem was the better pick over Jonathan Brooks here as your first running back. And I mean, Raheem is not safe by any means, but
just by a function of how I constructed this roster, we're going to hammer a bunch of running backs in a row here. So we'll find a floor somewhere. We're just not sure who it's going to come from. There's another player that I haven't really been clicking a lot of at the running back position, and it is Brian Robinson, who is sitting right here. So that is who I'm going to take here. And I think the ceiling is pretty high, especially if Austin Eckler, was unable to. I mean, obviously, this is kind of not a superficial take. Anything happens to Eckler, Robinson's going to explode. But I'm just not sure. And obviously, by ADP, the field isn't either that Eckler's going to command the same workload he was getting with the Chargers. That's why these guys kind of get picked right next to each other. But I think a lot of the research out there has suggested to just lean towards the guy with the higher ADP as being the one that has a better chance of doing better this season. And right now, that would be Robinson over Eckler.
So with Brian Robinson, I look at him as he was a guy I loved playing in DFS last year because I thought that the field was not capturing, like the ownership just wasn't capturing his spike week potential because he was pretty good if you go look at his game logs. And then I listened to one of the other sites do a breakdown of that division. And first of all, they had Jaden Daniels for a lot of rushing yards. Like they had Jaden Daniels as a really good value if he doesn't get hurt. But talking about, I don't know, just the numbers of checkdowns to these running backs, like how it's going to hurt Eckler a little bit.
I think I was gambling here a little bit. We're definitely taking a risk, if you will, that Dallas Goedert is not going to make it back to me. I'm kind of like just right behind his ADP with my 10th round pick. So that would be my preferred pick here in the next spot, kind of doubling up on tight end in the middle rounds and then being done with two tight ends. I think right at the tail end of kind of the TE1, / beginning of the TE2 grouping is that kind of Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz line. So I'm happy with having two of those guys.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's like I look at my exposures, talking about guys I'm trying to fade or get more of. I just want my exposures on these later on tight ends to come down because it feels like I'm just investing way too much. Or not investing enough in other tight ends, I guess.
Devin Singletary, that feels... I was going to say that feels late, but it's actually pretty close. So I'll just come out and say it because I'm not really... I don't think I have any reason to do it in this draft. Jacoby Myers, my highest exposed player. I think he's like 40 or 41% at receiver. No surprise to longtime viewers this summer. Nick Chubb, my highest exposed running back. He's also like in 40% of my teams. Those are two guys that I'm trying to explicitly avoid unless I really need a piece at either of those positions.
I did that with Jacoby, and I feel like I didn't draft him for a full month. I'm still well over the field on him.
That was me. I had a similar kind of outcome in my portfolio last year. Like I went super overweight on it was Tyler Boyd with the Bengals because his I just felt like his cost didn't match his upside.
Yeah.
I don't think he really worked out. I digress. But he ended up on like 33% of my final teams, which I had 81 teams last year. So that's kind of my target number. I want my highest exposed player to be right around like 4x the field at the most. And as it turns out, I won't even have the opportunity to draft Jacoby here anyway. So that's good.
I think I'm about the same. I'm about the same with exposures, except for weekly winners. I'm gonna have some weird stuff, but most of the other ones, I'm not. I'm probably not gonna have a single player over 30. I'm surprised how few players I have over 20 even.
I'm still stuck on 0% with Javonte. I can tell you that much, and that's probably based off of camp hype. Something I need to correct as well.
I've clicked on him. I did a week of just drafting a Steamay. This week I'm drafting just Justice Hill in the last round, and it's so funny how quick those numbers can get up when you're in 200 slow drafts. I FOMO'd the slow puppy the last day it was open, entered 30. I wanted to get more in, but it filled super quick. So I just wanted to get like different groups of drafters rather than drafting with the same 11 people through all of them. But
I believe as our friends that live down south say, bless your heart, because I am not a fan of slow drafts anymore. I don't have the patience for it. I'm in 4 at the same time, so you're going to laugh at me because that doesn't sound like a lot on the other site right now. And when I get, in fact, I think I'm on the clock in one right now and it's about to expire. When I get my notification that's my turn to pick, I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't care. I'm like not even looking at like my correlations tables. Like it's just not important to me, which sounds terrible, but I don't enjoy the slow draft experience at all.
I'm streaming.
Yeah, you are. You're definitely streaming. How you feel about Jerry Jeudy? How you doing with him?
I'm trying to mix him in because I'm so low, and I feel like I'm ignoring him because, like I said, I'm clicking on those other guys in this range, and Josh Downs, Gabe Davis are just like auto clicks for me over him. But I am trying to mix him in.
I have incentive for the Cleveland Miami correlation here, just because I have a couple of Dolphins skill players, and I have a lot of Chubb obviously over the other guys that go in this range. So Jeudy just naturally is a player I want to be different there.
Yeah.
So that's why we took Jerry Jeudy here in this spot. And we're working with a, what do I have cooking here? A 1-2-6-2. So still on track to probably take a couple more receivers, top out around 8, probably one more quarterback. And I'll probably go for the prototypical 2-6-8-2 build here the way this is going out. Even waiting on running back as long as I did until round 8, I feel pretty good about having Mostert and Robinson as between the two of them, one running back that will slot into one of my 2 starting slots kind of week in and week out. And hopefully I can hit a home run with like my final 4 high upside picks here at the end of the draft. So if you are new to the channel and if you missed the beginning of the show, this is a good time to remind everybody that we are doing a giveaway when we hit 500 subscribers here on our brand new Occupy Best Ball channel. So Occupy Fantasy is our regular YouTube channel where we stream a lot of DFS related content, and we've been doing that for about 6 years. But we've decided, since we're really ramping up our best ball content production, to bring you a separate best ball channel here. So expect more giveaways as we hit more milestones. So that should hopefully incentivize everybody to make Brian spend more of his money on you all. That is definitely what we're trying to get Brian Jester to do here. Pick 140 coming up. I think I still need a little bit more correlation with Philadelphia. I grabbed my share of Jake Ferguson for a Week 17 correlation with Jalen Hurts. I got his pairing with Dallas Goedert, and I actually have semifinals correlation with Brian Robinson at running back. So with Jalen Hurts as my primary quarterback for the last remaining playoff week in Week 15, I'm looking for a player from the Steelers at some point at the end of this draft. And I do think the best one for me to consider in general, number one, I don't think he's going to make it back to me, number 2, I feel good enough at the position to not warrant considering him. That would be Pat Freiermuth with the Steelers. So I think I'm going to probably be looking at a deeper cut, like wide receiver 3. It's one of those teams where there really isn't a consistently drafted wide receiver 3 behind Roman Wilson and George Pickens. So there is some high upside here. That could be like a round 17, round 18 pick as I kind of hammer running backs here throughout the rest of the contest. As Freiermuth comes off the board, Jahan Dotson comes off the board. Another thing that I need here is a backup quarterback. I'm not going to do it here just yet, but I do have an idea of what I want. So at the running back position, my favorite player in this range, even though it's a little bit of a reach, is J.K. Dobbins with the Chargers. I think he's probably got the highest upside, even though it's a little bit of a reach, but it's a position of need for me. And we talked about unique combinations throughout the tournament. Even though Chuck is correct, I probably have already kind of maxed out my uniqueness score, if you will, by grabbing Jalen Hurts with this trio of receivers in rounds 1 through 3. I'm still trying to do things like reach, up to a round in advance for players that I really like to get some different combinations that have higher upside. So that is one reason why I did that here. And now that Kmet and Dalton Schultz are off the board, as Chuck was talking about earlier, there's really no tight end left that I feel great about. So that is ultimately why I also am starting to take tight ends pretty high in the draft, because I like to avoid this choice of having to settle for something that doesn't feel very good. I am going to take Deshaun Watson straight up over Herbert and Stafford. Because I like his rushing upside as well. And this is a strong quarterback room, in my opinion, that I am comfortable going into the season with.
I think it's better to shoot for the moon when you have Hurts as your QB1 already, because Stafford's 15 points a week isn't going to do anything for you.
So if Watson, morphs back into his more mobile self, right, Chuck? Like he'll beat this ADP easily if he does that.
Yeah, I hate to endorse him publicly, but I have a Watson bag, and I need the Browns to not be bad.
There was one. We were talking about this in our Discord channel before the show started. The Brandon Ayuk trade rumors are all over the place. I feel like all 32 teams, including the 49ers, have been linked to wanting to trade for him. But there was, I think, yesterday a report that the Browns and the Patriots were considered the front runners, if you will, to land him if he's actually traded. I don't know how reliable that is, but Cleveland adding Ayuk would certainly be interesting for this wide receiver room. I know this is more of a fantasy strategy kind of channel and not like a straight up X's and O's cap management thing. I know people are interested in that stuff though. I think one reason why I don't completely brush off the interest in Ayuk from the Browns, Chuck, is that Amari Cooper is only on a 1-year deal. So they could see him as a better long-term investment. That's kind of how I looked at it when I saw the news.
I just don't know what to make of it from a fantasy perspective, because it's like Ayuk, I want to say he only had 105 targets last year. That's super low for a guy that we view as good as he is. And I'm wondering, is the extra volume anywhere else, if he gets the extra volume on certain teams, does that make up for the loss in efficiency? I don't know. It seems like it'd be good if he went to a team like the Patriots, right? It's the only target, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, if he goes somewhere where he's going to see 150 to 200 balls, obviously you make up for the lack of efficiency on volume. But if the volume is comparable in a new place and it's on a worse offense, the juice may not be worth the squeeze, is I guess what we're trying to say there.
I've been trying to hammer a little more Debo in anticipation of it. I'm fine with Debo, a couple spots ahead of where he's going anyway. But if it turns out Ayuk's gone, it's Kittle should move up at least a round, if not more, and then Debo, I think he's already about where he should be. Maybe a couple spots up. It's like Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall that'll be the interesting picks. I think Jawan Jennings especially wasn't getting drafted in every draft. Speaking of these, you have none. Well, I was going to ask you if
Jawan Jennings.
So, do you have any new late round targets from any training camp news this week, or who are you really interested in this week?
I don't think I've really adjusted much to any new news. I'm kind of, now that we're in a new week, I kind of decompressed, to be completely honest with you, from NFL after the disaster that was DFS for the Hall of Fame game, with the game being postponed early. So I just needed a mental reset there. So I'm about to get back into the news grind, get ready for our preseason DFS plugs, which will be back on OccupyFantasy.com, and there will be some videos on the regular Occupy Fantasy DFS channel with top plays for each of the preseason slates coming up this weekend, starting on Thursday. So that just, obviously mixing in a plug there for our stuff, Chuck. But that's primarily why I'm not really able to bring you like a new name for a late round pick that I'm interested in. Some old names that I'm interested in: Khalif Raymond, Rondale Moore. Bo Melton. I probably need to mix in Kadarius Toney a little bit more. I think he'll probably be still a thing, if you will. What do we have at running back? Nothing that I want here that I don't already have a ton of. I'm clicking on a ton of Douglas and Bateman here, Chuck, and that is like my addiction at wide receiver in this spot here in the 14th round. And I did it again. I flipped a coin and decided I would take the player on the better team with Rashad Bateman.
Nice. I'm thinking I didn't post anything. I shipped the in-game showdown on the Hall of Fame game. Got a couple tickets and a nice finish in the single entry. Very lucky. I played both defenses, and the game lasted like 3 minutes in the second half.
I was about to say you shipped the in-game second half that had like 5 total plays. So cool.
My captain was Reed at 0.6 points in captain shipped. Yeah.
What a time to be alive! In-game showdown for the Hall of Fame game, huh?
Anyway, man. Who is? So you're talking about, we'll see the preseason games. Maybe someone will emerge as like a late round pick. I don't think anyone came out in the Hall of Fame game. We're not really interested in Cade Stover, Johnson, or whoever caught a bunch of touchdowns. But maybe someone emerges in these next 2 games.
Yeah, Colin Johnson is like a preseason all-star with a few different NFL teams. I don't think he's going to turn into a regular all-star. So good, but congratulations to Colin Johnson if he's able to earn himself, into the practice squad kind of role, or maybe like a depth wide receiver role. Hey, these guys they're making their living playing football for as long as they can. And you got to give them credit for being willing to go through that grind, because it certainly is not easy. 4 guys that are on that roster bubble here. I have 7 wide receivers. So I really have to have a good reason to take my final receiver. At running back, I hate all of these guys. And it's way too easy for me to click on Estime and Braylon Allen. So do you have anybody you want to try to sell me on in this group? Or
just Justice Hill? Just the coach speak was good. Derrick Henry could be fragile. Keaton Mitchell's not back till the end of the year, and I thought he was okay at the end of last season. That's been my last round click basically this whole week.
Yeah. So just by need, because I need more running backs, I will take these guys a little bit ahead of ADP. I like Braylon Allen. We got some confirmation that he is second on the depth chart behind Breece Hall. So he feels like a relatively safe investment for someone that has a little bit of standalone value, but then also could, ceiling pretty easily if something happens ahead of him.
We kind of got confirmation on some teams' RB2s this week. Off the top of my head, like Tyrone Tracy, I think is firmly the RB2 in the Giants. I'm not going to draft him, though. He's been a running back for 1 year of his life. He was a wide receiver for the first 4 years of college. One of them was a COVID season. But then he was good at running back in his last year. He was good enough to get drafted, but I'm trying to think who else is down here. Damian Pierce, I mentioned I've been taking with the Joe Mixon injury uncertainty.
Justice Hill just doesn't excite me. I don't see him becoming like the every down guy. He's going to have a role in Harbaugh's offense, but I'm just not sure what the ceiling case is with Justice Hill, if that makes sense.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's probably similar to can Justice Hill take over the work? I mean, I've kind of been viewing him like Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't expect him to be the workhorse, but he's going to play every game.
You get like a 3 to 5 point range that could matter on your down weeks. I mean, I definitely understand it. I just I want a little more upside. How about a little bit of inconsistent reporting in Green Bay? Are you clicking on AJ Dillon at all at the end of drafts? What are you doing there?
I've not clicked on Marshawn Lloyd as much, but I'm probably not going to click on AJ Dillon at all. It's unfortunate.
And I still have to do a news review, as I told you. But the other name I know that I've seen quite a bit of news on is this rookie with the Raiders, Dylan Lobb. You picking
Yes,
him at all?
I am. Yeah, I was taking him a while ago, so I have a bit, not 8%, but definitely have a few. It's the pass catching intrigue, right?
Yeah. I think I have to start clicking on him. He's probably someone that'll end up being a later target for me, Chuck, just because I'm very overweight on Estime and Braylon Allen, and I'm happy to continue to click on them, but I got to do something different. I think guys that have gone kind of I guess sticking with the same backfield, Alexander Madison is someone I'm not interested in for that reason as well.
I'm well overweight, and I didn't mean to be, but a lot of times at the end of drafts, he just seems like the guy that if something happens to Zamir White, um, probably has the most value out of these guys. I mean, Miles Sanders still here. He's like the fifth highest paid running back in the NFL.
With the reporting on Brooks missing some time to begin the season, we probably should be more interested in Sanders, right? He gets some touches and he does well with them. Like, could be a kind of a coach speak ride the hot hand situation there. I definitely could see it. They originally signed him for that. New staff, maybe they give him another chance. Like, there's a lot of ways he finds his way back onto the field. There's no question about that. Running backs in this range. I'm trying to avoid Elijah Mitchell a little bit. I don't like that Dameon Pierce is dealing with some things. I don't like that Roschon played in the Hall of Fame game. I don't like Tyrone Tracy really at all, but I do like that Deneric Prince is on a good team in Kansas City. So, and with him reportedly supplanting CEH, I want to make sure I get to my 8% on Prince on my teams.
So two streams in a row. You took Prince. It's your guy.
He is the Prince who was promised. We hope anyway.
I mean, that's enough logic for me. If something happens to the starter, he's a starter on a good team, best team in the NFL.
That's really all we need to know, right? I do buy a little bit into this coach speak on Jordan Mason over Elijah Mitchell, so I kind of want to click on Mason a little bit more as well.
Oh, so it's because you're not convinced Elijah is the actual backup.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with Elijah himself. It's just the uncertainty of it. And we're talking about last 3-round picks, so it's not like the investment is super high, but I think the field is still a little too confident that it's definitely Elijah, right? And so it seems like it's not the best pick at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get some news hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and we should have a more clear decision anyway. Jalen Tolbert, trying to click him a little bit more. Tolbert, haven't been clicking him before.
I saw one guy take him in the 9th round. That's more than I think is worth investing in him. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Cordero Patterson, Quez Watkins. You like any of those guys?
I probably have like 5% Calvin Austin. Yeah, it's a lot of Justin Fields stacks when I'm drafting him. And it, like, Roman Wilson is hurt. I don't know how hurt, but
just going to be a homer here, Patriot fan at home, and take Javon Baker, who has been having a pretty good camp for the Patriots as my final receiver.
I was going to bring it up earlier. There's like we need to go next time. We'll go more into like the Minnesota wide receiver 3 situation. I think someone emerged on the Eagles. Some guy, I don't even know what team it was on. Darius Washington, Darius Christmas, something. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who you're talking about.
He emerged over like a guy that we thought was going to be the wide receiver 3 in one of these teams. I can't remember which team though, or the guy's name even. Like, it's a guy I never heard of. We're talking about he's going to start, and it's like, why? Darius.
Tune in to the next show.
No, Darius.
Dude, he has. That's another preseason All-Star from years past.
Is he? Okay.
Who is he with now? He's with the Lions now.
Yeah.
So do we think he's over Khalif Raymond?
That's what they're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, and I stopped drafting Khalif. I have a bunch. Like, I'm still willing to draft him if it's good correlation, but it was because I thought that, and I don't think Jameson Williams is good, so I thought Khalif was just going to be on the field, but this guy named Darius Fountain.
And they don't have Josh Reynolds anymore, if I am reading this depth chart correctly, so there's definitely some open open role there on Detroit. So
he is.
If I had an incentive to correlate Detroit on this current team, Chuck, I would just for
I take it.
the content take him exactly. But I'm good at receivers now with 8. I do want one more running back lottery ticket here to close out the show. As Justin Fields comes off, who is it going to be? Is
Laube there? I don't know if that's the type of player you want for this team specifically, but
Laube is gone.
Miles Sanders.
Jordan Mason is here. Miles Sanders is here. All right, Chuck, you decide. Jordan Mason with the 49ers. Miles Sanders with the Carolina Panthers. We're picking a backup running back. I think my tiebreaker is A, if they're still on the clock, because I'm not even on the clock yet. B, I'll take the player that's on the good team. So Jordan Mason is probably what I'm going to do here.
Okay. I'm glad you didn't actually make me answer because I didn't want to. It's a tough coin flip, man. It's like Miles Sanders, we know he's had success. He's a little older. Jordan Mason has like no miles on his body. What if he's Miles Sanders?
Right. Even if he's Miles Sanders, because you put Miles Sanders on the 49ers, he'd probably be a lot better, right? So I really appreciate everybody joining us for the show tonight. I want to apologize for getting started a little later than we normally do. We will be back tomorrow night. I think, Chuck, you'll be having a show with Brian where you'll be talking about a contest or some data, the usual stuff that we do here, and then content for the rest of the week from Occupy Fantasy. We're going to ramp it up for preseason DFS over on the regular channel, so you're going to want to make sure you're tuned in over there for what we have going on. Chuck, do you have anything else you want to look at before we get out of here?
We've had some pretty good discussions in the Discord recently, so I'd love to see any viewers come in the Discord and give us your thoughts on anything we talked about, or if you have a different view, that'd be great too.
I think before we truly get out of here, I don't know if this is going to actually include the team I just did, because I don't think it has fully finished, but these are my overall exposures like I was talking about on the screen here. Chubb and Myers, 42%. Then I got Gibson, 35%. The Stime, 32%. And it drops off pretty significantly after the group you see on the screen here, Chuck, but this is kind of the phenomenon I'm talking about. I'm very familiar with like who I have a lot of, but what I haven't really looked at is who I don't have enough of, if that makes sense. And how can I start to get more of those players, because I want to make sure I have at least a small piece of everybody I think has some upside this year. Whereas a guy like, I'll just pick on Kendre Miller, who looks like I only have one share of in general. I'll probably keep it that way. I don't really care about him. So,
yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it too. I agree.
So thanks for joining me as always, Chuck. I don't think you have anything else for the people, so I will sign off for you. For Chuck, I am Chris, and we will be back tomorrow with another show. Good night, everybody.